we can just like end on that note. Yeah, what a good song. Like, it's that song like ushers in springtime in my heart. And allergies. Yeah, I went on a walk this last week and my eyes started itching. And I was like, no, I want to be outside right now. My dad, well, Rebecca's parents were in town for a week, and then my dad was in town for a week. And it's been just a really nice time celebrating family and getting to hang out. And, I don't know, for you, like that song, Ryan picked that song, he's like, hey, can I do this song this week? I was like, yes. But actually, the feeling of that is exactly what I'm hoping that we will leave with today. Just kind of a feeling of hope, you know, a feeling of brightness. That's a feeling, right? A feeling of brightness. Anybody can associate with that feeling? It just feels bright and hopeful and good and warm. I don't know, maybe the color yellow. Anybody feel yellow? That's a good color. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, so grateful for the color yellow and for brightness and for hope, for being able to look ahead in our futures and see hope looking back at us. And sometimes just a song will do that. Sometimes a big long hug will do that from someone. Sometimes just taking a deep breath or looking out the window. There's just so many little things that if we can just pause and engage, that we are able to maybe experience a little bit of hope. And so with springtime arriving and our here in the Pacific Northwest, the weather changing, I ask that we would just be able to feel some of that hope in our hearts today. And thank you for your faithfulness. Amen. We've been here in Portland now almost 9 years, which means this is the church that I've worked at longer than any other church in my life, which is also really interesting to me. Almost a decade here. And I think through all of the times that I've taught here, and how when we first got here, Rebecca was pregnant with Amadeus, and now he's doing Rubik's Cubes during church. And how he's kind of woven his way into many of my messages, and Carmela, just 3 years behind him, and just how much of our life, has been here. And I know for me, like so many times when I incorporate my kids into what I'm saying, that I end up like getting choked up and crying, and because I see in them, the good things, the good parts of me, and then I also, and more Rebecca, obviously, the good parts. There's more good parts of Rebecca in than me, but the good parts. Thank you for not agreeing with me. Sweet of you. Didn't expect that support, actually. Well, it's like Ben this morning. He said, who's preaching? And I said, me. And he said, yes. And I was like, thanks, man. Thanks.
I didn't say it.
Thanks, Ben. But thinking about like things I say to my kids, and one of the daily kind of routines or rituals that I try to have with our kids is just to tell them how proud of them I am, how much I love them. Like to actually sit, look at them in the eyes and say, I love you so much, I'm so proud of who you are. And I feel like that's one of the best things I can do as a father. And probably one of the worst things I can do as a father is then when my actions don't line up with those words, right? When I feel the discrepancy of that kind of stuff. But what I want my kids to have is just a clear sense of identity. And I know that I can't give that. I can't by myself give that to them. But I so desire that they will have that, because I feel like with that clear sense of identity and inherent, intrinsic value, that just that their life will be better. Right? And how much of the stuff we deal with as adults, the challenges that we deal with, is the byproduct of us not understanding really that identity and intrinsic value. In Matthew 3:17, this is when Jesus has just been baptized by John, and it says, and then suddenly a voice came from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son, whom I'm well pleased." That this statement about identity and value is what basically is the moment that happens in the text right before Jesus goes into the wilderness. And so we're in our series on Lent, which, we are kind of trying to connect with the wilderness experience that Jesus had prior to crucifixion. Right? And so for us, like in this Lent season, we're connecting with Jesus is in the wilderness. He's experiencing these things. Ron, you brought a wonderful message a couple weeks ago where we even had Patrick and Lindsay come up to talk about their wilderness times and how we experience those things. What's interesting to me in this text, though, is that there's this statement about identity just before Jesus goes into the wilderness. Because literally the next verse, after this, my second to my will pleased, then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. And this identity piece, it's almost as if to say, you need to know this, you need to know who you are and how I perceive you prior to going into this next season of your life. That your identity, your understanding of your value is what is going to, in a sense, prepare you for this. That Jesus, going into the wilderness, that he, in this time, has to use this season of preparation to go and do what he needs to do, that only he can do, right? There's something that only he can do. Resurrection, like crucifixion, resurrection, there's something that only he can do, and he's preparing in that time for it. Because life is difficult. So how would we say this? Because Jesus, looking ahead to what he knows he has to do, he knows that there's difficulty that has to come, that season in the wilderness becomes a season of preparation. That starts with his identity. So it's interesting, though, in Matthew 4:1, then it says, after he fasted 40 days, 40 nights, and he was hungry, now when the tempter came to him, he said, if you are the Son of God, command that these stones become bread. If you are the Son of God. And so it's kind of like, Satan's coming and saying like, hey man, this looks kind of tough. Hey bro, like you've been out here for 40 days and you haven't eaten. Man, that seems kind of rough. Why don't you just have to turn this stone into bread? Like, problem solved. I mean, it doesn't have to be this difficult, right? And so then Jesus responds to him and, with basically not living on bread alone. Then later on, Satan takes him up to a pinnacle of the temple and says, if you are the Son of God, throw yourself down. He says, angels will catch you. Like, it doesn't have to be this difficult. And Jesus responds to him again, quoting some scripture. And then he takes him up to a higher place and he says, like, look out across all of this, I'll give you all of this. Like, it doesn't have to be this difficult. Like, all of this can be yours. And Jesus again responds to him. All of these statements are basically like attacking the identity, saying, if you are the Son of God, then it doesn't have to be this hard. And Jesus responds to it every single time, knowing his identity. Saying, yeah, actually, no, it does have to be this difficult. And each one of these things, like with food, is saying, you know what? Life doesn't have to be this hard. Just here's some comfort, man. Right? Here's just some food. That's going to make you way more comfortable. Here's just a little bit of comfort. Or here's some safety. Throw yourself down. You will never be hurt. Like angels will catch you. Or over here, like you don't ever have to feel weak. You don't ever have to feel forgotten. You don't ever have to feel like walked upon. You can have power, like comfort, safety, power. Those things don't sound so bad, right? I mean, when we're hungry, we want food. We want to avoid like being hurt. It would be great if angels would catch us. We don't want to feel weak. I mean, there's times when I see like Amadeus playing with another kid, and the other kid's like they're wrestling, and I see the look on Amadeus' face. He's like the look of I'm not enjoying this, right? Like I know that look. I've had that look. I remember that feeling as a kid of feeling weak and feeling like I don't have the ability to protect myself. And in Jesus' identity, like the tempter, Satan is saying, like, it doesn't have to be that hard. Like, you can just have comfort, you can have safety whenever you want it, you can have power. It doesn't have to be this hard. But I feel like Jesus' response to him, to if you are the Son of God, if this is your identity, I feel like Jesus' response is since I am the Son of God. Since this is my identity, this is my response. Because I'm clear of what it is that I have to do, that only I can do. I'm clear on that. And because I'm clear on what it is that I need to do, this is a season of preparation, and I'm not going to turn towards comfort. I'm not going to turn towards safety. I'm not going to turn towards power as my main objectives. I'm going to be willing to face what I need to face. It does have to be this difficult for him because it's his identity. It does have to be that difficult because it's his purpose, it's his fears, it's his pain, and it's his cross, right? And his identity is unique, that his purposes are unique, that his fears are unique, that his pain and his cross are unique. But I'll say this though, those things are not unique to him. His identity is unique, but he's not the only one with an identity. His purposes are unique, but he's not the only one with purpose, or pain, or fears, or even a cross. In Matthew 16, we're kind of confronted or given this idea where it says, from that time Jesus began to show his disciples, this is Matthew 16, verse 21, from that time Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem, suffer many things. Verse 22, then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, far be it from you, Lord, this shall not happen to you. Remember, this is where Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. He says that to Peter. Similar to like Satan in the wilderness, Satan's saying it doesn't have to be this hard. And now Peter's saying, it doesn't have to be this hard. And Jesus is saying, yes, it actually does have to be this difficult. I do need to do that. And then he goes on in verse 24, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. The idea here of denying, it's the idea of denying one's own interest. And not like give up the things that you like doing, not like give up going on walks and looking out windows and looking at the color yellow. But the one's own self-interest in terms of comfort, in terms of safety, in terms of power, in terms of those things that we might seek instead of being willing to deal with just what life has to offer. That we would deny and not seek just our comfort, our safety, and our power, but that we would take up our cross. Now, our cross is not Jesus' cross, right? That's his cross. Our cross is the thing, basically, that we have to face. Think about it like this. Our cross is the thing that we have to face in order for us to be uniquely us. It's the pain, it's the fear that is unique to us as an individual that we need to face. That our purpose, that our fears, that our pain is unique to ourselves. We all have these things, and all of this is working towards us facing our cross. And the cross isn't this thing of suffering. The cross for us is this thing of fulfillment. It includes pain. It includes fear. But you cannot live in your identity and try to avoid pain and fear and your cross. Let me say that again. You cannot live in your identity that's unique to you and try to avoid pain, fear, and your cross. Those two things go together. Your identity and your cross. Life is difficult. That's just like a truism, right? Life is difficult. There's no escaping it. When we have clients that say, well, I have trauma from my past, we say, well, like, you wake up every morning, right? Like, there's gravity on the earth that you live on. Gravity is slowly dragging you down to your death. Like, gravity also holds us on the planet and gives us, an atmosphere, but it's also like wearing on our bodies. Like, we get shorter as we get older. It's literally dragging us down. So there isn't a single person that can say, well, no, life isn't difficult. No, life is difficult. We can't avoid that. But I think like Jesus in the wilderness, we can prepare for that. We can prepare knowing, you know what, I have something ahead of me that I want to do. So Jesus, like, what does Jesus on the cross represent? I think it represents, in a broad brushstroke statement, love. Right? His ability to love us, give us the opportunity to love each other. His goal, love, that was his goal. He had to work through his own pain and fear to get there. I mean, how many of us want to love our families? Better be some amens or something. Like, how many of us want to love our families? If you don't, I'll give you a hug. I mean, we want to, right? We see this in front of us. And so we talk about this identity thing. Like, Jesus loving us, that's the goal. The way he did it was through his unique identity. Our goal is loving our families, loving those around us, doing the best that we can. And we do that through the avenue of our unique identity. So how do we prepare for that? In Matthew 11, I think it gives us at least maybe a starting point. Matthew 11, verse 28 says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." It's not saying just the ones that labor and are heavy laden. It's saying, come to me all who are, right? All of us are. Life is difficult for all of us. So all of us are weary or are laboring. And then the idea here is heavy laden. Specifically, Jesus is talking about laden with bearing the weight of the expectations of Israel, of the church, of being righteous through our actions, of performance-based value, or value-based performance. Yeah, performance-based value. Right? Like the weight that he's talking about is the weight of the expectations that you only have value if you do it right. Right? This burden is the expectations that if people really know who you are, if people really know what you're dealing with, if people knew how you fail, if people knew your thoughts, like this burden, this weight is that you only have value if you do it the right way. And all of us face those expectations from the world around us. Sometimes from ourselves, usually from ourselves. So all of us have to just face the difficulty of life. All of us also have to navigate, like, how does my value fit into this system when I feel like I can just never measure up? And like I can never meet the expectations that are set out for us. So in the preparation, how do we prepare for what's there? Jesus is saying, like, come to me. And he goes on to say that take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. He's saying, come to me, like, take my expectation. Like, so everyone who has difficulty in life, everyone who's dealing with the expectations of the world around you, and say, you don't matter if you don't measure up. Jesus is saying, take my expectations on you, because my expectations are good. He goes on to say, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He's not saying I don't have expectations for you. He's just saying my expectations in the end are refreshing. I think we could make a statement that if we perceive that God's expectations for us are burdensome, then I think those aren't God's expectations for us. Based on like what Jesus is saying here, like even in the context of pick up your cross and follow me, Jesus is saying, oh, my yoke, my burden for you, my expectations for you are life-giving and are refreshing. And if the system you're operating under is a system that is not life-giving at the end, I think it's the wrong system. If the expectations that you're trying to meet are expectations that are only pulling you down and convincing you that you don't have value, that the expectations are saying that your identity is not good enough, and you're going to act according to that. There's this idea that that we as humans cannot behave in a way that is inconsistent with how we perceive ourselves. Let me say that again. We cannot behave in a way that is inconsistent with how we perceive ourselves. And so if you perceive yourself as someone that doesn't measure up, someone that doesn't have value, someone that can't get it right, then you will behave in a way that is consistent with that belief. If the expectations that you're trying to live up to say that you know what, you're just not enough, then you will behave in a way that is consistent with how you perceive yourself. Does that make sense? I think that's why it's so important that at the beginning of this thing, before Jesus goes into the wilderness, there's a statement of, "This is my son," and I think he's great. Now, when we were there in worship, he was sitting on my lap, and I was changing the lyrics to one of the songs and singing in his ear about how cool he was. And then he's like, "Papa, stop it." But then, even then I thought, I was like, oh no, I'm trying, I am. And in that, I was just trying to be funny, but I realized, no, I'm also speaking identity to him. And clearly he just doesn't like my singing voice. Clearly. But there's this idea that if we don't perceive ourselves in a way that is life-giving, then we will be living it in a way that is life-taking from us. And if the burden that you are feeling, and in addition to life being challenging, if that burden is one that is holding you down, then I don't think that is the yoke that Jesus will be placing upon you. That doesn't mean that we don't have to face pain and fear and difficulty, right? That's what we started out saying. We cannot pursue our identity and avoid pain and fear. But our goal is, how can we love the people around us in a way that is unique to ourselves? So I've been trying to be healthier lately. I've been saying 6 months, but I think that's a lie. I think it's more 8 months that I just kind of stopped giving a Ellery's in there. Hi, buddy. I just stopped trying. The difficulty of life, and maybe just some of the burdens I was feeling, I just stopped. Stopped exercising, stopped eating well. I don't know, I was eating well before, but I stopped eating as well as I was, and I just didn't. So I've been trying to get healthier, and because ultimately my goal is that I want to be able to have energy to play with my kids. I want to be emotionally present for my wife. I want to be there to love the people that are important to me. And physically, I was at a place where it's man, I don't even want to get up to go play basketball. He's let's go play basketball. And I'm oh, what does that communicate to him? My hesitancy. It's not, he's not oh gosh, Dad hasn't been taking care of himself lately. He's just low on energy. His experience with that is, oh, Dad doesn't want to play with me. Right? He doesn't have interest in me. So that's not what I want. And so I've been trying to take better care of myself. And so there's some things that I've been saying that I think that can be helpful. So there's paper or pens on the thing if you want to write these down. If you don't want to, I don't care, it's your life, do what you want with. But these are some statements that have really been helping me to prepare. So I want to say this again. Life is difficult. So we either don't prepare for this and we turn towards comfort, we turn towards safety, we turn towards power to try to deal with the difficulty of life. Or life is difficult, so we prepare ourselves for it. So these are some things that I've been saying for myself that have been really helpful. First is, I feel good after I was at the airport in Denver a couple weeks ago, and in this whole journey of trying to get healthier, I've been changing my diet and realized that gluten and I don't get along. Big bummer for me. Everything that I love in the world has gluten in it. And I run the beer program at the pub. How sad. Reps were coming this last week and giving me beer. They're like, oh gosh, you can't drink beer anymore. Should I just take these? I'm like, no, just leave them. Just leave them there. Let me look at them. So I realized that Luke and I would get along. So I was in the Denver airport, and I got there at 8 a.m. I got off the flight, and I was hungry for breakfast, and I saw somebody eating some McDonald's and egg McMuffin, and I was like, that looks delicious. And so I started to walk to McDonald's, and then I thought, no, Bob, you won't feel good after you eat that. And so I went and I drank naked juice instead. 5 hours later, I'm still at the Denver airport, and it's lunchtime. There's somebody sitting there eating some Chick-fil-A. I'm not like a huge Chick-fil-A person, but I am a huge fried chicken sandwich person. And if they had been eating Popeyes, I would have been even more excited that it was Chick-fil-A. Nonetheless, I got in line at Chick-fil-A, and I'm standing in line, and I told myself, Bob, you won't feel good after you eat that. And so I didn't eat it. I went and I ate a Cliff Bar, and I was pissed off at Cliff Bar the entire time because it wasn't a chicken sandwich. But this statement has been really helpful for me. I feel good after I drink water. I feel good after I stretch. I feel good after I get sleep. I feel good after I exercise. I feel good after I eat a Cliff Bar. I feel good after I eat a salad. I feel good after I have an honest conversation. I feel good after I intentionally make myself vulnerable to people, to save people. I feel good after I listen to music. Right? Like all of these things, I feel good after I is preparation because life is freaking difficult. Like, I feel good after I make healthy choices. Here's another statement that I've been using that's been really helpful for me. Because life is difficult, I will. And a lot of those things that the after I, do these, I feel good, fit into this category also. Because life is difficult, I will go play basketball with my kids. Because life is difficult, I will drink water. So here's a good one. The options are, because life is difficult, I will drink myself to sleep every night. Or because life is difficult, I will drink water. Does this make sense? Drinking water is preparation because life is difficult. As opposed to ignoring or running from the difficulty that life presents. So because life is difficult, I will. And I have this list of things. I will exercise, I will eat well, I will play with my kids, I will get on the floor and with Carmela when she wants to play with Legos, which is every day. Right? Rebecca clears her throat because she does it way more than me. But I will. And so here's the last thing that really stood out to me in the preparation for just the difficulty of life. I know that if I want to be more present with my family, with my kids, that I need to have more energy. I know that I need to eat well to do that. But I know personally that I do not eat well if I'm not exercising. So if I just attempt to eat well but I'm not exercising, I can't, it's not going to happen. You say you can't? Yes, you can, Bob. If you really, whatever, go talk to your counselor, I'll talk to mine. But I know that if I do exercise, then I will eat well. I know that if I do exercise, I will drink more water. I will eat well. I will have more energy. I will procrastinate less on the things that I need to take care of in my life. And I will be more present with my family. So my goal is over here. Be present with my family, aka love the people in my life. Right? Jesus going to the cross, dealing with difficulty and pain was to reach that objective. My objective is to love the people in my life. But I know that if I'm not exercising, which seems so far over here removed from this, but I know that if I'm not exercising, then I will not eat well and all of these things will fall into place for me to do this thing over here that I want to do. Because if you think about what does Jesus spending time in the wilderness, not eating, have to do with loving people and dying on the cross? You think, well, it's a preparation. Yeah, but really, honestly, tell me. You go not eat and then draw a direct line to playing basketball with your kids. Right? The direct line isn't there, other than the fact of, when I do this, I feel good afterwards. And so I want to say, like, there's nothing in our life that is not spiritual. So exercising is just as spiritual, if not more maybe, than reading your Bible and praying. Because I also know that I am way less likely to read my Bible and pray if I'm not exercising. Because I don't feel well, I don't have energy, I'm living in shame. Like, there's all of these things spiraling for me. And like, our bodies are not removed from the spiritual world. Like, so just to say this, what for you is the thing that sets in motion health? I was talking to a guy the other day, and he said, if I don't wake up before my wife and kids, then I know that the rest of the day I'm going to be running behind, I'm going to be stressed out, I'm going to be feeling shame, I'm going to be procrastinating. So for him, he said, the thing that I do, that sets in motion health, is waking up before my wife and kids. I said, okay, so is there anything else that you need to do for that? Yeah, I need to go to bed before 10 p.m. So, seems totally disconnected. His goal is to be a better husband and father, and the way he does it is he goes to bed before 10 p.m. Like, are you hearing this? Like, there are these things that we can do in our lives in preparation for the difficulty, instead of running from it. And so Jesus says in that, like, come to me, I know life's hard, I know there's unfair expectations that aren't even true. My expectations for you are to love me, love yourself, and love the people around you. And hopefully some of these statements of I feel good after because life is difficult, I will, and if I do this, other things fall into place more easily. Hopefully some of that helps you just with the preparation of what life is. Let's bow our heads and pray. Lord, we want to not run from what it means to be ourselves. And so whatever it is that we have in our life, whatever it is that we are maybe tempted to avoid and ignore, because it requires some difficulty. It's not easy to exercise. I'd much rather eat a sweet, delicious Popeyes sandwich than a Cliff Bar. Lord, we know that pursuing health, that we will feel better afterwards. And feeling better is not about pleasure, it's about preparation. Because we do, in the end, we want to feel your peace and we want to feel your hope. And you desire that for us. Your expectations for us are not ones that are crushing. Your expectations for us are ones that are about life, and life that's abundant, and life where we have fulfillment, but we're also able to face our pain. And we thank you for this, Lord. Just pray for your encouragement. In your name, amen. Can we stand up and sing this chorus or this verse maybe 2 times? I don't know. Jeremy's in charge. Yeah, Jeremy feels good about 2 times.
All right. You belong among my fathers. You belong somewhere close to me. Far away from your trouble and worry. You belong somewhere you feel free. Do it.
Let's just do that instead of benediction. I think that was great. Yeah, I think that Jesus' heart for us is that you do belong and deserve to be someplace where you feel free. That's with Him. It's not without responsibility, but what He has for you is rewarding and is life-giving if we're willing to face it. Love you all. Have a great rest of your day. You got some more coffee back there. Go grab your kids.